For the third year and counting, Richard Skipper has been celebrating the artists you love.
And what are some of the things that you've really
run out of time, and we've got to talk about your latest. I want to go back a little bit, first of all, and celebrate a true legend.
Richard Skipper is all about celebrating life, art, and his guest body of work.
And did you pursue performing opportunities while you were in high school?
Please join us while he showcases these diverse and talented individuals. Here's Richard Skipper.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. This is Benny. Benny, look into the camera. Today we're celebrating two areas that I'm absolutely crazy about. Today is National Dog Day. So there he is, looking into the camera. He's going to try. So it's National Dog Day. So we're going to go to the dogs today. We're going to talk about the importance of dogs in our lives. All of our guests today are all dog people. Dogs affect our lives. They make us happy. And when they leave us and they go across that rainbow bridge, they break our hearts. But we adopt again and we bring them into our homes. Today, I want to celebrate the love that dogs bring into our lives. And I also want to celebrate today the fact that today is National Women's Equality Day. And I have four very exciting women that I am crazy about, all celebrating who they are, celebrating their art, celebrating creativity, and celebrating just life. Before we start today, I want to start with bringing together, three things that celebrate all of the elements of what we're going to talk about today. First of all, it's National Dog Day. One of my favorite events that happens year after year is Broadway Barks. It's when the Broadway community comes together, thanks to Bernadette Peters, Bill Berloni, and it started also with Mary Tyler Moore and their love of dogs. And every year they come together and they try to find wonderful homes for animals and dogs that need homes. So Broadway Barks is something, look for it. If you're able to make a contribution to Broadway Barks and the work that they do, by all means, do so. So I'm going to show a clip from one of the most recent, this was prior to the pandemic. This was when Hello Dolly was last on Broadway. And Hello Dolly is about a very empowered woman, Dolly Levi. And how appropriate that I'm going to be sharing this clip with you right now, because today also marks the anniversary of Bette Midler leaving that company several years ago. So before we start today and we meet our incredible guest today, let's enjoy a moment from Broadway Barks in Schubert Alley. Put on your Sunday clothes and let's have a great time today.
Music is too. Woo! Here we go. Out there. Woo! Outside of Yonkers. Way out there beyond this hick town, Barnaby. There's a slick town, Barnaby. Out there. Full of shine and full of sparkle. Close your eyes and see it glisten, Barnaby. Listen, Barnaby. Woo! On your Sunday clothes, there's lots of world out there. Get out the brilliant tea and dime cigar. Come here, buddy. We're gonna find adventure in the evening air. Girls in white in a perfume night, where the lights are bright as the stars. Put on your Sunday clothes, we're gonna ride through town in one of those new horse-drawn open cars. We'll see the shows at Delmonico's, and we'll close the town in all the world, and we won't go home until we've kissed a girl. All right, let's go find ourselves a puppy Barnaby. got, you can choose. And all those people's hearts. We're ready for the show. So let's not dally in Sugar Alley, 'cause Broadway cares, don't you know? This is Broadway Barks. Welcome to Broadway Barks. We got a dog you love and you can take him home.
Like I said, Broadway Barks is one of my favorite organizations in the world. If you're able to make a contribution to them, by all means do so. They come around once a year with that event, but please get them on your radar. Get on their radar. Tell them I sent you. So one of my favorite women is watching the show today, Cherie Callahan from my hometown of Conway, South Carolina, just outside of. She's watching the show today, so I'm going to let her pull our first number. So, let's make a deal. There are 4 women waiting in the wings, so she gets to pick the number. Just pull the number 1 through 4, Cherie, and you will pick the first person who's going to come on the show today. And then we will talk about the work they're doing, their love of dogs, and you'll get a chance to meet these incredible women. So, Cherie, as soon as you pull the number, we will get started with today's show. I hope you're still there. I hope you're still watching. Going once, going twice. Cherie, are you there? I'm waiting. Yes, number 3. And that is Linda Kahn. Thank you. Hello, Linda. How are you?
I am great, Richard. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's nice to be had, isn't it? Years ago, I had the good fortune of performing at Carnegie Hall.
Oh, wow.
And when I came out on stage and there was a guest singer, and they said, "It's so nice to have you at Carnegie Hall." And I said, "It's so nice to be had at Carnegie Hall." And it brought the house. So I am so glad that you were here today. We, first of all, are celebrating it's National Dog Day. And I want to ask, are you a dog person? Do you have dogs?
Well, unfortunately, right now I don't, because we lost our 2 little doggies. And quite honestly, it's been taking us so long to get over that loss that we have not been able to kind of get back. Although, all you have to do is put on the dog videos on Facebook and we're like, oh, how about this one? How about this one? But and it's the first time in my life I've never had a dog. So it's an interesting place to be, but I am absolutely a dog person. And I've had some of the greatest dogs ever.
I remember years ago, my husband and I, we had lost, our first dog that we had together, and we went to quote unquote, look at dogs. He said, "No, remember, we don't have to come home with a dog today." Famous last words.
Yes.
So, but when the time is right, and you know that you're able to bring a dog into your home, you will know that the time is right. But the time is not necessarily right for you because you have been in the throes of putting together a show. And I love the name of the show because it is based on one of my favorite songs, a Kander and Ebb song. I'm going to assume that that's the opening of your show. Am I right?
Actually, it's not the opening.
It's not the opening.
It's not the opening. It is actually the closing. And when you see the show, you'll understand why.
Well, I've got to get to the show. Now, for some reason, I am not seeing, I've got it here. Oh, here it is. There you are. Say yes.
Yes, indeed. Say yes. Yes.
Say yes.
Yes.
So, but you're not opening with Say Yes, so I stand corrected. Why did you choose this title for the show if you're not opening with this? And I love the fact that you're turning the tables on everybody.
Yeah. Well, the way the title came about was very much as the show began to develop. This is my debut show. or solo debut. I did a duo show in 2017. But as we were working, we began to realize that the reason why I was picking a lot of the songs that I was picking had a lot to do with my own personal growth in terms of stepping back in as a performer. I had left this a long time ago to raise a family, be a parent, lots of life reasons.
Mhm.
And so coming back, I realized that it was like picking up the mantle of something that was always inside of me, but life had taken me down a different road. And now life opened up this road for me to return. And I kind of talk about some of the reasons why I wasn't able to keep performing, and also why the show was very delayed, and how I just kept saying yes. And I really believe that even in these very challenging times, if we can just know that we're being guided and have that open heart and an open mind, and you just keep saying yes. And I kept, okay, what's my next step? To do this, and a path will open up. And that's kind of how my whole journey has been.
Well, good for you. And I totally agree with that. Was this show a result of COVID, or was this show a show that was scheduled to happen prior to COVID?
It was scheduled to happen prior to COVID, and actually prior to COVID.
Oh,
there were a number of things that got in the way of the
life
show.
is happening every day. Saying
Exactly. It's very meaningful to
Yes.
me, those lyrics. But so I rolled the dice and took a chance, and here I am.
Well, here you are, Christopher Denny, Jeff Harner. Like I said before we went live tonight, Jeff Harner, I think there must be 4 or 5 Jeff Harners walking around, because I think he's cloned. I don't know how he does as much as he does.
I agree.
Jeff Harner, I'm a huge fan of him on stage, off stage, both as a human, as an artist. What is it that Jeff brings to the table for you?
Wow, that's a great question. Jeff's role in helping me to create this show was completely irreplaceable. He is the most present director. He is supportive. He is kind. He is clever. He's very funny. And he always came kind of with the attitude where we tried something and he'd say, well, is there a better choice? Is there another way to do this? It was never like, no, that's no good. And that kind of attitude from a director, for me, but I think for many performers, allows you to blossom, because you're free to make those mistakes. You're free to stumble. You're free to hit bad notes, while we try and rejigger everything. And he was great. He was so supportive. And I knew I could really trust when he said I was doing something well. I went, I can trust that. And when he was saying, you got to go home and work on this, I knew I could trust that too. And I knew I could come back. And it was a very positive, nurturing relationship with Jeff, with Chris. We were a 3-legged stool. And so I may have my name on the show because that's the way cabaret works, but it is definitely because of them. And they each contributed a very important piece of this cabaret puzzle.
That's great. Now, we are going to bring our next guest on, but before we do, you get to pick your own question. And it's 1 through 4, pick a number.
Okay. Oh, well, let's stick with 3 since.
Okay. So it says, ask a person for something huge that they're likely to say no to before asking for what you really want. Has there ever been a moment in your life where you were nervous about asking for something, but you went for something bigger than what it was that you truly wanted, realized that you were actually able to get it, and then went for what you wanted?
Yeah, I think I would have to say it was when I decided during COVID, and I thought my show was never going to happen. And I was, as so many people, pretty down about it. And for my birthday, I decided that I wanted to take myself into a recording studio. I'd never done it, wanted to see what it was like. And so I went in and I recorded a song that I wanted to do for my husband. that he loved. And I thought, well, this will be nice. It's like a little legacy thing. I can give it to him and my, any grandchildren I have. And, it'll be like one of those little family whatevers. And after I did it, and David Friedman, who's a friend.
Oh, I love David. Yes.
I know you know him well. He said, do you want me to come in to the studio with you? And I said, oh, David, I said, this is just me. I don't know what I'm doing and I don't have any money to pay you. And he was so sweet. He said, this is your birthday present. We'll have fun. Let's go on in. Wow. And so we did it. And when we came out, he said, I think you should work on an album. And I said, wait, well, I've just done one song. He said, no, really. And I said, well, how am I going to possibly afford that? And he said, why don't you do a GoFundMe? And so after months of agonizing and should I and shouldn't I, and am I worthy of this and should I do it or not? Long story short, I did a GoFundMe and people responded. And then I put them songs into it. And I gotta tell you, if you'd asked me a year ago this time that I would be recording an album, I would not have believed you.
Well, say yes.
I said yes.
So you're going to say yes to our next guest, 1 through 3.
Oh, let's do number 2.
Okay, and that is Therese Lee.
Yay.
I am so thrilled that you're here. And I have to tell you that Therese has been on the show before. You were actually on my show with Dr. Judy Bloom. And Therese reached out to me and said that she was coming back to New York with her show, which is she's received rave reviews for this show called Riding the Bus to the Red Carpet. And so you reached out and you also suggested Linda Kahn for this show. So thank you for that. But after saying yes to the show, it also turned out that we were talking, it turns out that today is National Dog Day. And before we talk about your show, you have done a lot of work with dogs.
Yes.
And they're very much a part of your life.
Yeah.
I actually have a few photographs here. First of all, look at the love in this photograph. Who's having more fun?
Beautiful.
I'm so happy.
And then I love this. As I say, that is one of the best photographs I have ever seen. And then I love this. There's just so much love in these photos. So you wanted to talk about what you get from the work that you do working with dogs. So let's start there.
I just, the photos that, a lot of the photos that you just saw were from this. I started working with dogs at the farmer's market that's just down the street from my house on Sundays. They don't allow them in the market, so we would babysit the dogs while people went shopping. And they had a little sign saying they were looking for people to help do that. And I went, that looks like fun. So I started doing that, a couple Sundays a month. And, you got to know the dogs. And I didn't realize, there's a German Shepherd named Max that I met, who I put my arms around him and I felt safe for the first time in my life. They give you this unconditional love that I have never, it's sad to say I'd never experienced that before. And I find it really healing that it was safe for me to love them and they loved me in return. I didn't have to look a certain way. I didn't have to be a certain thing. It was just for me. It was just love for me and I could love them. And so I found it really, it healed my heart. I had a broken heart most of my life. And the dogs really gave me a sense of what love looks like. And now I kind of gauge everything by do I see that same level? I know that may be unrealistic, but there's a certain amount of acceptance that dogs give you that I haven't allowed myself in my relationships with people. So,
well, it may seem odd that I chose human rights on a day where we celebrate dogs.
Yeah.
But I do believe that there's so much for us to learn from dogs. Ellen Matzer is going to be coming on soon. She's a very dear friend who's a nurse. And I've got a great quote that I'm going to be pulling up when I bring her on. But we learn so much from dogs. I mean, it's unconditional love. I have seen people treat their dogs so abysmally, and those dogs still go back loving them like,
Yeah.
you know, there's no issue. I mean, people have left their dogs in their cars, and it's just amazing how these animals just continue to love. And all I have to do is look into their eyes, and I'm a goner. That's it for me.
Yeah. There's a great, when you were talking, I was thinking there's a great rescue organization here in LA called Hope for Paws, and they're on YouTube if you ever, and they do all these rescue videos. And it just, the other thing that stuns me about dogs is like they will have been abused and abandoned to the point like you just can't imagine them still surviving. You take them, you give them some love, you clean them up, you feed them, you nurture them. They have forgotten where they came from, you know, pretty quickly. I mean, they still have issues, but mostly they respond to the love, and the love heals their hearts. And it just makes me think like if they can get over that and move on and let it go. It's a lesson for me about letting go of things from my past, you know, things that broke my heart many years ago, that I can just, you know, love does heal all wounds. You know, real, true love, unconditional love heals all your wounds.
Well,
and for example, that.
Jane Fonda has a wonderful quote in her autobiography, and she says that there needs to be a statute of limitations as to how long we hold on to the hurt. Because sometimes things that we hold on to for so long can impede our growth and everything. But we do have to, unfortunately and fortunately, move through it and get on with our lives. But I want to talk about your show. You are bringing this show back. Will this be the second or third time that you will be doing this second time? You know, you've got this incredible story to tell. If you can give a Reader's Digest version of the story of your journey to the red carpet.
Well, I was working for a little media company at the same, they were my major source of income. I was their marketing director. They threw me into the red carpet stuff. I lost my car. I had a car accident. I mean, they had laid me off from the marketing part of that job. I had no money is basically the bottom line. I was cleaning someone's house in order to buy food. And I had a car accident, lost the car, didn't replace it. And then my boss that I used to work for would call me every now and then to still do the red carpet interviews. So I lived in this horrible little place in Venice, and I would get on the bus and go, you know, across some of the scariest parts of LA on this little bus and go interview like George Clooney or Carol Channing or, you know, Adrian Brody or anybody, like a lot of people. And it struck me. And then I'd get back on the bus and head back to Venice to my little hellhole. So it was a really interesting time, you know, because on the one hand, I had these people who I had these really amazing interactions with who actually kind of saw me and then, you know, go back and live in my little hideaway life. It was just an interesting period of time in my life.
Well, what I love about you and Linda is that you both have taken these moments in your life and you have made lemonade out of it. You've made them into these stories to share with audiences so that hopefully audiences will come away with a glimmer of how to make it better. And it's working. And so congratulations. I'm going to ask you the same thing. You get to pull your own question, 1 through 3.
I'll take 3.
Okay. And the question is, what parts of yourself are, this is going to be an interesting question based on everything you've just told us. Okay. This is your therapy session for today.
Oh, wonderful.
So what parts of yourself are you too afraid to express and share? And I'm gonna go a little further with this question. Working with Jeff and now putting your story on stage, has it gotten easier for you to share those stories that at one point in your life you were afraid to express and share?
Yes. I mean, One of my primary survival skills was to be invisible, because I had been preyed upon as a child, and I just figured that what I needed to do was just not let anybody see me at all. And so it's been interesting, and I'm just turned 60, so it's taken me till now to realize, like, I don't want to be invisible anymore. I'm ready to be seen, which is terrifying. And writing this show during the pandemic with all this time that we had, and Jeff said to me, we have the gift of time.
Yes, yes.
Yes, I'm sure Linda heard that too.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I would tell him some stories from the red carpet, like just some really intense interactions that I had. And he would say, why don't you tell that story? So I tell some, and I'd be like, what? And he'd be like, yeah, why don't you tell that story? And so I have, and I can see that it changed me, because the part of me that I've been scared to show was my light. And because I thought that it attracted the darkness, if that makes any sense at all. And now I just realize that the brighter you are, the less likely, the stronger you appear, because it's really the hiding that attracts the predators. My whole life I've been hiding from predators. Sorry to get so intense, but there you go.
No, well, don't be sorry. Please, never apologize. That's my motto.
Yeah.
And thank you for being open and sharing that. So now you get to bring on our next guest, one or two.
Two.
Okay, and this is my friend Ellen Matzer. I am so thrilled. Again, she said yes at the last minute today. And I am going to surprise her, because I pulled this off of Facebook. I love it. I hope you don't mind.
No, it was there for the taking.
You shared it, so
Yes.
she shared this with my photo today. So I took this. That to me that says it all right there. That's love. But I also have another photo that I'm going to share here, because normally when you've been on the show, you've been here with Valerie,
Yes.
your partner in writing and work.
Yes.
You've done so much great work together. So today it's more about you. Mm-hmm. And let's start first of all with your love for you. How many dogs do you have currently?
We have 2 dogs and 2 cats.
Well, we have 2 cats and a dog. And do they get along?
Oh, they do. Well, the cats tolerate the dogs, but there are some very, very affectionate moments we have found since we got the second dog, which was the dog you pictured just before.
Well, I have to share photos later. I'll send them to you. Our dog and our cats absolutely love each other. They sleep together. They cuddle up with each other.
Oh.
I mean, we think about the strife of the world. But it's interesting, because as I said, the word that I chose today was human rights. And I put in human rights. And then as I was looking for great quotes about human rights, I found this quote today. And I want to get your take on this, Ellen, as a nurse, to get your thought on this, and then maybe Linda and Therese can both weigh in on this, because it's a hot topic for a lot of people. And the quote is, dogs do not have many advantages over people, but one of them is extremely important. Euthanasia is not forbidden by law in their case. Animals have the right to a merciful death. And I am a proponent. I believe that when the time comes that I am no longer able to live my life fully to the point that I want, and I love, I guess you can figure this out. I live my life to the fullest. I love life. I love my friends. I love life experiences. I want to be around, hopefully for another 62 years, healthy. But if I knew that I was going to be a burden on someone, or I wasn't able to live my life to the fullest, I would love to be able to check out. on my own terms. And I would love to get your take, if I'm not putting you on the spot on that, Ellen. And as a nurse, you've dealt with a lot of patients who have gone through some very difficult situations.
Mhm.
And you've written about this in
Mhm.
2 incredible books.
Mhm. Yes. Um, well, I can say that euthanasia certainly is not legal in New York at this time. However, it is legal in other states. Um, my personal feeling on it is that it is a very good thing to have the power over your own destiny, over your own health care, and certainly over your own death. Um, I will tell you that it happens in the hospitals whereby when I was working in critical care, which I had done for decades, um, we of course could not euthanize anybody. However, we could compassionately let people pass. With the advent, and this is just the last decade or so, having your healthcare agent and having your living will, which is certainly recognized in the state, advanced life support can be withdrawn in the hospital by the healthcare agent of the person who they are agenting for. And I have come up against this issue thousands and thousands of times, whereby a mother, father, sister, brother are not doing well. They have very advanced disease of different magnitudes and different things. And they have chosen a family member to be the proxy and had a living will that outlined very specifically, I do not want advanced life support, I do not want nutrition, I do not want blood transfusions, et cetera, et cetera. I do not, I do not, I do not. I want maximal pain control. Now it's in the hands of the proxy because the patient no longer has what we call capacity to make those decisions. And very often, the person who was given the capacity to make the decision decided to make the decision about them and not the person that they were elected to represent. So we had, I can't pull the plug on my father. I can't pull the plug on my mother. Isn't there something else you can do? I won't allow it. So we have had this happen. I can't even tell you, Richard, Linda, Therese, how many times where we, if it was left in the hands of the proxy, where they made the decision based on basically being selfish. They wanted dad around longer. They wanted mom around longer, sister, brother. And then, of course, there were people that abided by the proxy and said, okay, we're going to do a compassionate wean, which is usually the case when people are on a ventilator, and we remove the ventilator and we give them pain control and anxiety control and allow them to pass. In the place where I am now, I'm in an extended care facility where I'm a professor for new nurses. Every patient has what they call a MOLST form, and that's medical orders for life-saving treatment, MOLST. And the patient had made this decision when they had capacity, and it remains in effect. They also elect an agent. But if they have filled out a MOLST form, we must abide by it. And they can already say, I do not want to be resuscitated. I do not want blood. I do not want antibiotics. In fact, they can even say, I do not want to be sent to the hospital if I were to become ill. I want to be maximally made comfortable. And then, of course, there are plenty of MOLST forms that says, treat me, send me out, do what you need to do to sustain my life. But it is at least available.
Yeah.
Wow. Linda?
Yeah, I would. It's very interesting that you brought up this topic because I just went through this with my mother, who passed last April, and we're actually doing her memorial this coming Monday. So the timing is ironic. She had done everything that you had said, and actually we brought her back from the hospital, and they were giving her medication. We had brought in hospice, and I remember talking to her social worker, who was almost a friend to her. She was in an assisted living place and had seen her regularly. And at one point, as we were giving her the drugs that were keeping her out of pain and all of that, and I was the healthcare proxy, and I said, I know that this is the right choice because this is not a life that she is living. But I said, I'm suddenly weight of making the choice for another human being to let them go. And I said, does this mean I'm like helping to kill my mother? Mm. And she said something to me that just resonated so positively. She said, you're not making any decision because you want to keep her out of pain. She said, the body will make the decision, wow, whether it wants to let go or possibly revive. Mm. And so you're keeping her out of pain. And that was a great comfort to me, that it was really, even though I was making the online, this is how we're going to proceed as she had wished. I wasn't making the decision when she was going to let go.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And what was your mom's name?
Janet.
So we'll dedicate this show to Janet.
Oh, how lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think, Richard, one of the important things, I know that I say this to families all the time, is that when it comes down to performing in the role of a healthcare agent, I say to families, you are not making a decision because they have already made the decision for you. They made it easy for you.
Yes.
The decision has been made. And for some people who still have trouble with it, I said, if your mom could wake up right now, what would she say to you? And often I get a response like, don't do this to me. Please don't let this happen to me. Let me go.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then it becomes a lot easier when they realize that the decision was already made.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm going to let you pick your next question, Ellen, changing the subject drastically here. And you'll pick either number 1 or 2, and then we're going to bring our next guest on.
Okay, 1.
Waiting very patiently in the wings. So the question is, what thing are you most scared to tell your parents?
Well, I only have a mom. My dad is passed over 40 years ago. My mother is 90 and a half.
Well, there should be no fears there. Was there anything ever in your life that you were afraid to tell them?
Well, yes, actually.
Then let's go there.
When I was younger, probably from age, tween 11 through probably 19, 20-ish, I was a very overweight child, very overweight person. And I didn't exercise. And I actually was a person who ate in the closet. I was a closet overeater. And so when I was little, I used to eat the whole box of whatever it was, Twinkies or cupcakes or whatever. And then I would run to the store and replace it and then eat it back to where it was. If there were 2 missing, I'd eat 2 more and stuff. And I was always afraid to tell her because my mother was always cognizant of how many cupcakes were there left, and what happened to that? There were yodels or whatever, how come I bought a box the other day and there's, only 2 left? And I was horrified. So I had my own little hidden way of doing things where I would just eat it and then go out and try to replace it, put it in the exact order that it was in, and et cetera, et cetera. So,
well, thank you for sharing that as well. Today is about really opening up.
I laugh at it now, but I was horrified as a child to say, well, Yeah, I ate all the Twinkies.
Well, I want to bring Mary Lee on because she has been waiting patiently. And Mary Lee, thank you so much for waiting patiently. And before we jump in, I want to share the photo that you sent because this photograph is just so incredible. Look at this.
Oh,
If this is not the poster shot
oh my
for
goodness.
our show today,
They were holding the
how
second
did
floor
you get
ransom.
this shot?
They were holding the second floor ransom. Yeah, they had their demands, which was more snacks, larger food portions, and full-time access to all bedrooms. But they finally let us pass. They're hysterical, these dogs. They're so
Oh
spoiled.
my God!
It's
What? I mean,
absurd. My house is a disaster.
no, and you said that there's a thunderstorm going on right now. So, and they are all
They're
petrified.
literally all in bed with my husband right now, with the fans on, trying to make noise so they don't hear the thunder.
Oh, well, as I said, I mean, Benny, who you all met, my husband came home, so he's gone. But he is not afraid of anything. I mean, he would give those dogs a run for their money right now.
Well, it's funny. The big one, the big German Shepherd that's standing up on the back, we just got him maybe 2-3 months ago. He was chained up in a house in Mississippi. He had never been inside ever for a year of his life. They moved away and left him tied up in the backyard.
No.
And a neighbor saw, like, 4 days went by and they were like, oh boy. So they grabbed him, brought him to this rescue. I work with tons of rescues. And I actually know the one you were talking about out in LA, the Hope for Paws with Eldad. He's amazing. Yeah. I keep saying if I'm ever a millionaire, he's getting a big fat check from me. I'm going to like buy him a new truck or something. He's an amazing human. Anyway, so we ended up, I saw his picture, came across on Facebook. We had just lost another dog that we rescued that was, he was beautiful. He was a 3-legged dog that he had cancer. Someone took him out, tried to shoot him. So he ended up losing his leg. So we took him and gave him like hospice care for 3 months. And then he passed away at Christmas. So I was devastated. I still wasn't over that experience. Yeah. And I'm flipping through all my dog rescue things on Facebook because that's what I do. I literally lie in bed and flip through the dog rescue things. And I came across this dog, Jack, in Mississippi. And I just looked at my husband and went, oh my gosh. And he goes, I don't even know why you ask me anymore. What did you just get the dog? You know, you're going to get the dog. So we brought him home. And today on National Dog Day, Jack just got cast in his first national commercial.
Oh, great.
So Jack's come a long way. He's making his television debut.
Now, first of all, how long have you and your husband been together?
19 years next week. Married 19 years, together almost 21.
And did both of you have this love of dogs prior, or?
I was always a dog. I mean, ever since I was a little kid, my mom was always surprised I didn't end up becoming a vet because like I was the kid in the neighborhood that I would go into the woods looking for hurt animals and I would bring them home and like nurse them back to health and set them free. And people would, I had this thing with parakeets. I could like kind of bring parakeets back from illness. So people would bring me their birds and I just always loved animals. And my mother was very kind. She let me have chickens and rabbits and dogs and cats, whatever I brought home. She was like, okay. Because I always took care of, I had ducks. I had a pet duck that I used to put a little twine around his leg and he'd swim out in the lake with all the other ducks. And then I'd reel him back in and bring him home. Like I was this weird kid who walked around the neighborhood with birds and ducks. And my mother used to say it was like Cinderella because I'd walk around, the little animals would be like fluttering behind me. So I've always had dogs. I've always loved animals. I now have 4 dogs, 6 goats, and a bunch of chickens. But yeah, so one of the reasons I married,
what everyone doesn't realize is that she lives in a studio apartment
in Brooklyn.
No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
I was going to be impressed.
I did have 2 dogs in a studio apartment in Brooklyn though for a long time. But one of the things I liked about my husband was when I met him, I came to his house and he had 2 dogs that he had rescued. We only rescue. We would never, ever do breeders. And the dogs came, of course, like running up to me because dogs just love me. And he was like, oh, okay, my dogs like her. And I liked that he was such a dog person. I don't think I could have married someone who didn't like dogs because my house just has to be full of fur, or to me, it's not alive, you know?
Yeah.
I just couldn't imagine my life without a dog. I had this wonderful dog when I lived in Brooklyn. His name was Natick, and he lived to be 15 years old. He died on my birthday. And he went everywhere with me. I would write him into my contracts in the shows if I had my own dressing room that I could bring him in and he could hang out with me. And I was doing I Love You, You're Perfect off Broadway. And the stage manager was so nice and he loved my dog. And I had taught him to respond to sign language. So that if I were walking down the street at night or something and I didn't like somebody coming toward me, I'd give him a sign and he would do certain things, right? So I taught him, like, I would do my little hand like that and he would talk. He would go, "Rah, rah, rah, rah." And so he'd sit up in the stage manager's booth and the stage manager would call, half hour, ladies and gentlemen, half hour. And you'd hear, "Rah, rah, rah, roof." So my dog would sit in the booth and call half hour and 15 minutes. So it's so fun. I just love them. Dogs with the bomb.
God bless you. Well, I want to talk about this project that you have. You have this new CD out. Again, thank you. You and Ellen, the two, for being spontaneous today, because you came on at the last minute. But it's called A New Stage. First of all, the title, how you came up with this title. And I love the premise of this. And that's why I wanted to reach out and have you come on the show today.
Oh, thank you. That's kind of you.
Yes. So let's start with The New Stage.
Well, the title is interesting. It came because at the beginning of COVID, Stephanie Block, who she won the Tony for Cher, and she and I have been friends for probably 30 years. We did Will Rogers Follies together in Branson, and we shared a dressing room, and we just stayed friends. We just stayed really close. And COVID hit, and she was going through such a hard time because she was selling her house in New Jersey and moving out to California so that her child could go to school outside during COVID. And it's a very stressful time. She and her husband are both performers, so the bottom just fell out of their careers. And in my house, things weren't quite as stressful. You know, I just had the typical COVID stresses, but I did have a teenager that you're trying to keep steady during a very difficult time and have him see his friends. And I have an 85-year-old mother who, oh God, bleep that out. She'll kill me if I say her age out loud. Can you bleep that?
Embrace it. Embrace it.
You got to bleep it. She'll kill me. So
I
was worried about her
next week so she can give her side of the story.
So she's just going to be mad that I said her age out loud. So we were going through our own things, and we kept sending Marco Polos back and forth. You know, those little videos that you send?
Yeah.
So we were sending Marco Polos, and at that time, all 4 dogs in my house had gotten mange, and it went undiagnosed. So my house was a disaster. I was getting rashes. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. We're all falling apart. And then she would send me a Marco Polo back about something, and I would just send her back and go, mange. And I would hang up, right? Like, so we were just making each other laugh, and our lives were falling apart. And I just said to her, we should be doing this on a podcast with all of our awesome friends, because I'll bet you they're all really struggling right now too. And she said, let's do it. And let's call it Stages. And I was like, oh my God, I love it. She's like, because it's all the different stages in our life. And literally I said, give me 2 weeks. I said, and don't tell me you're going to do this unless you're really going to do this. She's like, no, I'm in. I was like, okay, I'll call you in 2 weeks. So I hung up. I built a website. I found an intern. I got composers to write our theme song. I got a lawyer to draw up all the contracts. I had my friend make our logo. That was it. I was on it. So 2 weeks later, I go, okay, I got a first 3 guests lined up. Here's this, sign this. She was like, holy shit, what have you done? I'm like, you said go. I went. And so we started that podcast, and it's been a year, and we've had like 50 guests, and we're having the most amazing time doing this podcast. We've had over 50,000 downloads. Like, it's just been a ball. And it all started because, like you were saying, we just said yes. Let's just say yes. Let's just
say yes
and see what. And that's really a theme. We talk about it all the time in the show. Like, just say yes. Like, what what's failure? If failure is nothing except a guidepost to say, okay, not this direction, try another one.
Yeah.
But
And
don't you find, I mean, excuse me for interrupting, that, with both you and Ellen, especially, I'm going to use you to just just me asking today, and you both saying, yes. I mean, you said, that, yes, it'll be fun. I'll do this. And you and I have never even spoken before. I mean, Ellen and I at least have a history, but you, I mean, and I have never, but when I received your e-blast today, I guess, about your CD, I thought, I want her on the show. And you said yes and went for it. I find that so many people in this business especially will say, well, let me think about it and let me get back to you. And these opportunities don't always come by a second time.
Yeah.
And and I heard an interview one night with William Shatner, and this, I think he was 80 at the time, so this goes back a few years. And he was being interviewed by well, I can't remember who he was interviewing by, but when he was being interviewed, the interviewer said, what do you attribute to your success? And he said, I get out of the house.
yeah,
We live in a world where everything that you want is available now
yeah,
on an app. He said, even sex, if I want it, I can click an app and get anything I want delivered to my front door.
yeah.
And he says, it's just getting out of the house and saying yes to these opportunities. And it was Larry King who was the interviewer. I remember now. But if we just say yes and then figure out how we're going to make it happen.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think the first thing that occurs to a lot of people when they're faced with an opportunity is all the reasons why they can't do it, why it might go wrong, why this won't work. And I think that's the wrong way to look at things. It doesn't mean jump in willy-nilly and be crazy, but it does mean take chances. Like, just what do you have to lose?
Yeah.
Stephanie and I had nothing to lose by just doing this podcast, and it turned out to be the most incredible thing. And to go back, that's where the title came from, because it was called Stages, and it's about the different stages in our life. And much like you, Linda, I left the business for a while to raise my son. And I'm getting back in now. I'm writing a show. I have a production company. I'm invested in Kimberly Akimbo, and it's coming to Broadway.
Oh, yes. Oh, great.
Yeah, I started a production company with LaChance, so we're going to be producing shows together. And
yay!
I feel like I'm in a whole new stage, a whole new chapter in my life.
New stage.
So it's fun,
I feel a little left out of all these celebrities, Richard. I'm like,
Ellen, I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, Ellen, you all have to read her book as well. So and of course, all of your information, by the way, for everyone who's watching and for all of you on the show, will all be on my YouTube channel, so that you'll be able to connect with each other and figure out what everyone's doing and everything. So, and then tell us about the CD before we run out of time, because this show, I don't want the show to end, but I've got dinner plans tonight myself. So tell us about the CD.
As my son was growing up, every year I would record a song on Father's Day, and I would put all our pictures to the year on the song. And I had always said at the end of a certain amount of time, I'll turn it into an album. And that's what I did. I didn't use all the songs, but many of the songs are those that I'd done over the years, and some I had done recorded before my son was born. So I sort of put it together for him, for his little graduation gift.
Great.
Yeah.
That'd make a great cabaret show.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Well, the CD release,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
it's right there.
Well, I'm writing something now, so I've never done a cabaret. So actually, I'd love to pick your brain, Linda, and Teresa too.
And
Yeah,
you could talk to both of us. Absolutely.
I need a director.
We've got one for you.
Okay.
Jeff Harner. Well, there are a lot of great directors
There
out there, but
are.
I'm going to say Jeff Harner.
Okay.
Yes, he's never directed me, so I'm just putting it out there. But by process of elimination, you get this last question.
Okay.
And the question is, where are you placing blame unnecessarily for something that happened in your life? Or have you ever done that?
That's a very interesting question. And I think the interesting thing is I often blame myself for things I shouldn't blame myself for. I take on way too much responsibility for other people's actions sometimes. And when I get hurt, I tend to say, what did I do to bring this on, you know? And I sort of excuse some of their bad behavior and put it on myself. That is ending. I will say that. I've sort of, as I discovered it about myself, I was like, well, that's done. So yeah, I think that would be the answer. Is I don't think I've deflected blame. I think I've taken too much responsibility for other people's behaviors in the past.
Well, good. A great book that I would recommend to everyone is Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yes.
I lead a book group, and we just recently went through that book. So once again, the word of the day is human rights. The phrase of the day is human rights. I will be putting together a little gift package for our winner today to give away. So I've got 4 random questions, and then each of you are going to be given your chance to do your final word of the day. And I'm going to start with you, Linda. The first question is, what is the most beautiful sound that you feel that you've ever heard?
A baby's laugh.
I agree with that. I love
Yeah.
that. Therese, do you journal, or did you ever? And would you ever consider writing your memoirs? I know that you've placed your story on stage now, but you've got an amazing story to tell on so many levels.
Yes, I've journaled quite a bit. And yes, people have asked me that a lot, which I think is the universe prodding me to write something. Yeah.
Good, great. Ellen, what is the poorest that you feel that you've ever been? And it doesn't need to be, and I don't necessarily mean financially. And how did you overcome it?
Well, if you don't mean financially, I'm going to say I have 2 things, but I thought of one thing, and that had to do with what I shared earlier, but I'm going to deviate from that. I'm going to say that the poorest that I have been is been unable to help my 32-year-old daughter with mental illness. We have been struggling with this for over 2 years now. She had COVID PTSD and had 2 relationships collapse, and has had a lot of challenges. And so my emotional bank account is bankrupt from that.
Wow. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. And if you ever need anyone to talk to, I'm a great listener. Just call me. I'll be there for you.
Thank you.
And besides your dogs, Mary Lee, besides your music, besides your art, what makes you feel the most alive?
I think being with my son. I love spending time with my son. Even if we just watch TV or hang out in the yard for a little while, watching him turn into this young, thriving, energetic young man is really grounding, and it makes you grateful, and it makes you happy to be alive for them, to stay around for them.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. And don't go anywhere for a moment. I'm going to do my giveaway, and this is how I do it. And thank you all for being here today. And then I will give my closing remarks, and I will give each of you a chance. Mitch Morrow, once again, Mitch, please get in touch with me. He's accruing all these prizes. I don't know how to send anything to him. So richard@richardskipper.com. Please get in touch with me. So I am going to remove these. I'm going to give each of you a chance to give your final remarks today. It could be about anything that we talked about today that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any final message that you would like to leave everyone with today. And then when you finish, you just pick the next person, and so on until the last person is left standing. And the last person, when you say goodbye, the credits will roll. So don't worry about how am I going to end this. Just say goodbye and the show will end. I want to thank everybody for being here. It's hard to believe, I have a newsletter, shameless plug for that. It comes out every Sunday night at midnight. And I call it the Skipper's Guide. And it's not only a guide of what's coming up in the next week, as far as my guests are concerned, but it's little, my little philosophies about these little daily celebrations and things that are coming up. And as I've been writing this week's blog, I'm thinking about this time of year. And it's the end of summer. Someone posted today, everyone remember the end of summer is not until the middle of September. Right. Because I think that people get caught up. And then someone responded very quickly to that, unless you're a teacher. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, for some teachers, I go for a morning walk every morning, and I've been seeing kids waiting for school buses for the last 3 weeks. A lot of kids have been already in school, and it's gotten earlier and earlier and earlier, and their summers have gotten shorter and shorter and shorter. I grew up in South Carolina. I grew up on a farm, and our school season was built around the farm season. So we had a summer. I grew up near Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So the summer tourist season, we had summers. And it's a shame that these kids are not experiencing summers. And then I think about what's happening when these kids are going to school and how our school system has gotten so politicized with what's being allowed in school and what's not being allowed in school, and what kids are being allowed to talk about or not being able to talk about. And my heart aches for these kids. Allow these kids to be kids. Allow them to grow up. Allow them to experience what life is like. I think about my summers, and I think about this time of year, and I always get melancholy. I think about summer ending, but I'm also thinking about the excitement of the autumn, and yes, pumpkin spice, and all that autumn brings, and the holidays are coming up. And then you see like the holidays speeding up. Have you been into some supermarkets or department stores lately? The holidays displays are already up.
It's already Halloween.
So yes, they're throwing it at us whether we're ready or not. So my message for everybody is to experience every day and to embrace it and to hold on to it and to get as much as you can get out of each day. And as I close out yet another month, another week, I want to tell everybody we're not responsible for what's going on in the world right now, but we are responsible for how we respond to it. And when it comes to social media, I look at Linda, Therese, Mary Lee, Ellen, and they all have wonderful gifts to offer to the world. If you see one of their posts or any of our other artist friends, think about their post. Does it uplift? Can it uplift them? Can it uplift the other people that see it? And if it does, there are 3 things you can do. Like, comment, and share. Because all of us want to be acknowledged. And if it's not going to do those 3 things, simply hit the delete button and stop it in its tracks. Because there's enough negativity in the world and we don't need to contribute to it. Also, after this show today, please go to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, I hope it will not be your last. Please consider subscribing to this channel. My goal, my mission is to celebrate artists and their body of worth and what they bring to the table. Everybody's worth celebrating if we take the time to do so. And also, I say to everybody, go out and do something nice for somebody else.
without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list and reach out to the 5th name that pops up, and reach out with a phone call. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, but a phone call. And let that person know what they mean to you. Linda and I have a mutual friend, and that's Sean Moniger. And Sean Moniger always says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. Mm-hmm. And I always say, if you're going to go out in a boat, make sure you bring a skipper along. So I'm going to leave the screen, and Linda, I'm going to turn it over to you. And when you finish, you will pick the next person. Thank you all for being here today, and make it a great weekend and a great September. Linda, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Richard. Well, I just want to say, I think one of the reasons why my show got named Say Yes was because I think I'm sort of meant to, be using that not only for me, but for others. And when I think about each one of you today, because Therese said yes, and Mary Lee said yes, and Ellen, you even have said yes in terms of helping all of these people go through these very challenging times and being brave enough to share what you're going through with your daughter. It's wonderful. So I'm just going to end with saying, yeah, let's all keep saying yes. Keep the good stuff going. Over to you, Therese.
Well, thank you so much for having us here today. It's been really a pleasure. And I just was thinking, sometimes I get so caught up in everything that's going on, and I'm either in the past or in the wreckage of my future, which, I worry about what's going to happen tomorrow or next week or next year. And sometimes I just need to remember to be where my feet are, to take a breath, to go do something nice for myself, to remember, it's not happening now. What is happening now? What's right in front of me? To just do the next indicated thing, because that is where I find happiness, is right in the present moment. So thank you again for having us here today. I really appreciate it. Over to you, Ellen.
Thank you. Well, this was a really unexpected pleasure to be asked to join Richard today. I have been on Richard's show a few times. I'd like to, thank the guests that were here with me. Again, I'm not in the entertainment field, and, it's very foreign to me, but it was so delightful hearing about everybody's projects and talents. So I just am feeling really grateful that I could meet all of you through Richard, and I'm hoping that at some point in my life that the books that I wrote, which are very compelling stories from my heart, I'm hoping that at some point they will become a diverse work, and that somebody would think about producing them via another avenue, so that we can get more people access to care, access to education, access to knowledge. And the last thing is not forgetting lives that were unfinished. Thank you. Mary Lee?
Well, I guess this is my show now. I'm the last one here. I'm taking over Richard Skipper's show. Anyway, so the fall to me has always been the new year. It never felt like a new year in January. Always September felt like the new year to me. So I love September. I think what you were saying about schools is really true. I think they don't teach children how to learn. They just teach them what to learn. And I think we would all benefit by learning how to learn, and how to embrace the new, and how to embrace the scary, and how to say yes to things that are frightening and do it anyway. So happy New Year. Bye.